Sandra, thanks for joining me. How are you going today?
Good morning, Martin. It's a beautiful Sunday morning and I'm going well.
And you're in Melbourne.
No,
Tell,
I'm in Sydney.
are you in Sydney? Sorry, that's me. That's
Yes.
me with lies. You make mistakes.
That's okay. That's
Tell
right.
people about yourself and what you do.
Well, I'm the founder and CEO of Ellect. And Ellect is a digital marketplace that connects micro enterprises, which is really small businesses,
Yeah,
with corporate and government buyers.
yeah,
But it's not just a marketplace, it's also trying to create a positive social impact, and it contributes towards projects that trying to work towards gender equality.
yeah. It's interesting because I've worked in procurement for 15 years, and marketplace was just a term you would think about maybe for a category plan or a sourcing plan or who was available. And you might have to get an
Yeah.
expensive report from Gartner or PwC or Deloitte. Now, I would describe marketplace to people as, imagine you're shopping on eBay or
Yeah.
Amazon and you're connecting. They're just providing the marketplace is actually who you buy from, but the digital marketplace is the platform you use.
Yeah, it is. It's a technology platform, and digital being that it's all online,
Yeah,
rather than going to the Sunday markets like you would,
yeah.
and in the back of a church or a primary school to buy things. So the digital marketplace being online makes it easier, gives more flexibility, and you can get, I guess, more small businesses on it, and also more buyers on it too.
Yeah. So, what are you seeing in the industry? Because I think, the digital marketplace, people talk about disruption, and disruption has been
Yeah.
happening for a long time now. And it's for me, I'm like, disruption actually means something different. I think of disruption as social disruption, and technology disruption is just
Yeah.
new things. So, what's happening in the industry from your side?
Well, I actually think you're right, is that there is this whole drive and demand for social disruptions. If you look at corporate social responsibility, it's been around for 20 odd years,
Yeah.
I believe. Try not to show my age here. but so corporate social responsibility had kind of gone through various waves and what's important. And then even at the Australian Stock Exchange did a recent report about corporate social responsibility and said that you need to provide evidence of what sort of corporate social responsibility that you're doing. And so now that there's more demand of ethical investors, funds are actually asking companies or corporates to provide evidence, and if they don't, they stop investing in them. So, which is a good way, I feel, that showing there is also lots of research about profitability in that side, but I love the fact that investors are demanding that business either you show some positive impact or you do positive impact.
It's interesting because I've been working in this space for a long time. Showing my age, I'm 27 years, so I started working when I was 25. But
Love
it's,
it.
I've been talking about the conscious buyer and our buying habits changing. And when you work in procurement, often in a tender, and for years, well over a decade, there have been social impact questions in tenders
Mm.
asking about what you're doing for the environment, how you treat your employees, are you paying your employees fairly? These questions have been around for a long time, and that has actually influenced change. But now I think they're going to take more prominence. But as a customer, you have the opportunity to engage. And are you seeing that more with customers are wanting companies to do more?
Yes, definitely. Definitely. And customers also want to find easier ways to do it. So one of the things with Elect, when we were building it,
Yeah,
is to look at how to not to say, oh yes, part of our proceeds or part of our profits go towards a project or support some sort of social impact. We wanted to create something that has a direct impact. And so when every time there's a trade, there will be a notification to the parties to say, you've just done this to support this, and
Yeah.
it's all very transparent.
It's interesting. Now, I always look down at my phone, I'm sorry, because it's a live stream. But we've got hi from Rachel, hi from Christina, hi from David. Thank you, everybody. So we've got lots of people watching this from overseas. And when I
Oh,
say from
cool.
overseas, because the digital marketplace and micro businesses. Now, I remember like the precursor of the GoFundMe is where
Mm,
people from countries where somebody might need, say, $50 to buy materials or to buy some seeds to just start. And micro business is a way of helping communities grow and people actually just getting out of poverty, making those social changes. So this is more than just P&R for a big corporation. This is
yeah.
about affecting lives.
Oh, absolutely. And micro businesses, literally for a lot of the countries, are the backbone of the economy.
Yeah,
And if you look at Australia, 97% of businesses in Australia have 19 employees or less.
yeah,
I mean, even though micro businesses were aiming for the 5 or 10 employees or less, but it ultimately is the backbone of a lot of economy. And a simple purchase, what corporate might seem like a low level miscellaneous spend, is a lucrative contract or lucrative deal for a small business. And I love the both sides seeing, wow, I'm actually helping not just on gender equality, but a small business, and a small
yeah.
business thinks, wow, I'm actually getting some traction with my business as well, and getting
Mm.
that additional source of revenue. So it's a win-win thing. But when you were talking about the microloans and all these little efforts, research has proven time and time again over the years is that when you support a small business, they tend to be more community driven. You support the family, and there is just more and more positive kind of like I guess reaction out of it,
Yeah,
which you know yeah.
we've got Junaid, we have Manny. Thank everybody for watching. And I'm going to talk about my experience of going to Brazil. Is my second favourite country after Australia. I consider Brazil a second home. And there are more than 200 million users of smartphones, high adoption of technology. And ATMs only work between 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. at night because it's too dangerous outside of that. And neobanks have been set up so people are using their phones to conduct business. An example
Mm,
is go to the beach, you might want to buy some clothing, and people will come with the clothing. It could be swimwear, but they also have an Instagram account. Now,
yes.
I know people who travel 2 hours every day in Rio from the suburbs on bus, train, bus to come and sell their swimwear, which might be, say, $25. Now, you might barter, and I remember I was chatting with some people last year. You're bartering. Now, you're the difference now is a pound sterling. What
Mm,
difference is that pound sterling to you or to him? You don't want to get ripped off, but at the same time, and and if you want to continue buying his swimwear, you can do it because he has a shop on Instagram. So it's not
yeah.
about just the price. It's you are making an impact to this gentleman and his family because he's going to take another 2 hours to get home.
I completely agree. It's sometimes to people like bartering is a game,
Yeah,
or it's you think that it's part of the culture, but ultimately, like you said, £1 to the small business, the swimsuit supplier or business
yeah,
owner, it's a huge difference. It's not just to the business, but to the family that they bring home.
yeah.
And look, I mean that whole conscious buying that you brought up earlier, I also talk about conscious entrepreneurship,
Mm,
and that is where that movement, the people, it's becoming a people's movement more so,
yeah,
that we're demanding that. The customers that you talked about are demanding that. The investors are demanding that. That I think business really need to pay attention to it. And I'm just delighted that we've put together a platform that the business can pay attention to it and do something about it as well.
Yeah, so I'm going to talk from a procurement perspective. Sometimes it's actually quite
Sure.
hard to find like those niche suppliers, those small businesses who may have it, and it's often the relationships. You might
Mm.
have a stakeholder who's worked with somebody in the past, and you that's how you actually find. Whereas through a platform, it's like saying, you know what, my stakeholders need X. I don't know where to find, but with a simple platform, you immediately have a range
Yeah.
of companies to go from. We've got, conscious entrepreneurship is where it's at. Absolutely.
Excellent. Yeah, I
Mm,
agree with you.
I agree.
Just on that point, Martin, that's what I guess Ellect is basically that one-stop shop to find these businesses for procurement teams,
Yeah.
and know that they've been verified. And I don't, I know I'm trying not to, I guess, promote Ellect and because I'm really enjoying our
Yeah.
conversation here and explore all the topics, but yeah, it's what it's trying to address basically.
So I would describe this as at the moment, you have had a lot of corporations who've been talking about inclusion and diversity for a long time, and they've made great strides, but it's no longer enough. Because things are
Yes.
never enough because there's always continuous improvement. Nike has come out because there's now a group, an anonymous group on Instagram of employees saying what it's like to work there. And
Oh.
that makes the change. But also Nike, Adidas, big corporations are saying they're going to spend more money with minority-owned businesses.
Mm.
But the digital marketplace enables the Nikes of the world, the Googles of the world to connect with small businesses. Because the hardest thing in
Yeah.
business, I seem to think, is actually setting up. Is that your view or?
Definitely, definitely. And also, I want to partner with organisation that certifies these businesses. So, for example, We Connect, I've got a relationship with them, and they certify women-owned businesses. The minority business, different countries have a different organisation that certifies that to make sure that they are genuine, and those are the business that we want to put them onto the marketplace. So we verify. Firstly, we verify. We have our own verification process to
Yeah,
verify the legit suppliers, to ensure the integrity of the platform. But there's also scope to add badges so that the corporate side can do searches and say, I just want to find minority businesses in Melbourne
yeah,
or in California,
yeah,
or they even go down to a particular category, and they'll be able to search that. But we've also got this buyer matching methodology. So let's say they want to find particular type, or they buy certain niche products or have an interest, they'll get emails saying, "Hey, look, here's a list of suppliers that kind of like cater for your interest,"
yeah,
so that they also get notified, and both parties benefit from that.
yeah. So modern slavery is a
Mm.
huge problem. It's one
Yeah,
of the scourges of society. In the Asia Pacific region, I wrote about this last year. Asia Pacific region, it's devastating. But modern slavery also occurs in Australia. It occurs in the UK. It occurs in America. And now legislation has been passed forcing companies to identify the
yeah,
risks of modern slavery in their supply chain and also what they're doing to address that. And you think with outsourcing, if you give all of your travel, your corporate work to company X, how do you have visibility of that? But at least with things like the digital marketplace and the certification is a
yeah.
great way of identifying and stopping this shameful practice.
I completely agree, and then that's what we're trying to do. And I'm so pleased that I think a lot of work has gotten to the stage to bring this Modern Slavery Act and to legislate it
Yeah,
to force the issue. And so again, ties in with the marketplace to highlight which companies, which suppliers, and manage that through the supply chain. So
yeah,
we've also, by the way, if I could add, Martin, I know
yeah.
that you're looking at all the comments, so feel free to
Sorry,
to
yeah,
inter
sorry. I'm gonna stop doing that. Yeah,
no, 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 don't. I want you to say hello.
yeah,
Um, so blockchain. The other thing that's also very important is counterfeit products, food fraud, product
Yeah.
fraud, and we've also partnered with AgLife that handles the tracking from source to customers.
Wow.
So even like beef, so they can track from the cow all the way when it ends up a plate on the sorry, a steak on the plate.
Because you think, I remember the term that was paddock to plate.
That's
With,
right.
and for vegans out there, we'll talk about something different. Let me just say,
Oh no,
um,
and also does with wheat. It also, it can track wheat.
we,
So it doesn't have to be animals for the vegans out there. It's
no,
anything.
yeah, denied. He said it's a definitely huge problem. So sad to see. I keep looking down at it because it's LinkedIn Live is a discussion, and it's I'm sorry,
Yes.
what is what it is.
No, no, no,
Um,
no. I want you to because I would love to hear the feedback from the
yeah.
audience, and I can't see the comments, so I'm totally
No.
focused on you.
So one thing I wanted to ask you was about the UN global goals, because I think people hear about the UN just about the arguments between the different countries, but don't really understand what some of the global goals are, and particularly global goal number 5.
Yes, my favorite one.
Your favorite
So
one.
so yeah, so it's UN Sustainable Development Goals, which is a mouthful, is also known as UN Global Goals, and they've come up with 17 of them. That they feel that we can't just rely on government to start making the change that we need, and these goals help people, businesses to align, and projects as well to make sure
Yeah.
they're aligned with one of these goals. And goal number 5 is gender equality, which I really feel that's my calling and my purpose. But I already know about business. I love business. I love everything to do with business, and I wanted to find a way, like this whole conscious entrepreneurship or the social entrepreneurship, is not to create a foundation or a charity. I think there's plenty.
Yeah.
There's lots of good work that's being done. I want to support them as well. But it's really like getting people to think that how your business is going to actually address the gender equality issue.
It's interesting because I see a lot is still about gender equality in the boardroom at the management level, but really at the entrepreneurial level, the easiest
Yeah.
thing to do to address that gender balance is you become the entrepreneur yourself. Nothing is actually
Yes.
stopping you from doing that, and I that's what I love.
Yeah. Yeah.
So are you
And
seeing
sorry, you go.
so are you seeing a trend with more gender equality at the entrepreneurial level?
So there are more women-owned businesses that are popping up, and that's been growing. What the gender equality in business, what the stats are not that great at the moment. So, look, for example, and this is global, not about Australia, but 1% of the public procurement contracts are awarded. Only 1% are awarded to women-owned businesses. So there's a
Wow.
big gender gap in that, and there's lots of. It's a complex issue, but that's what got me started with Ellect, was because of that start. I was fortunate enough to be volunteer for an international NGO and be on the board and see the
Yeah.
good work. A lot of like United Nations, International Trade Center, We Connect, trying to address this problem,
Yeah.
and it is a complex issue, and so I'm just being part of that, with Elect, part of that, supporting that. So to answer your question, Martin, there is a lot of work that is still needed, to support gender equality in business, and there isn't any legislation to say, that I'm aware of. I know there's a lot of intention, there's policy documents and
Yeah.
reports, but we still, when it comes to gender equality in business, there is still a lot of work to do.
We've got, it's cool to follow the journey of the supply chain. I agree, because the journey is the most important thing. You
Yeah.
think you want to buy a t-shirt, and your t-shirt is $5. Now you think how many companies are involved, what was the
Mm,
journey for the people involved in making and transporting the t-shirt? Where was the gender equality
yeah.
in all of that journey? And the gender equality, and it's not just about women, it's also about men having
Yes.
opportunity
Yes.
in certain
Well,
fields.
Absolutely. And I like to actually want to lean more towards, like, I think we should call it supplier diversity and inclusion.
Yeah,
And that is really important because, I mean, yes, my passion is about gender equality and bringing balance. But I'm also, you can notice my skin color. I'm part of
yeah,
a minority group. I have a lot more other ticks and boxes, and they all have similar challenges one way or another. And supply diversity really is what
yeah,
we really need to push for, and
yeah.
inclusion.
And inclusion. I mean, for me, the supply diversity. People have just thought about, you know what, if you can't buy your petrol at the servo up the road, diversity does not mean you drive to the next servo. Diversity is more about providing opportunities for
Yes.
everybody because tech billionaires, there are more tech billionaires. Social media has enabled new tech billionaires, but I'm afraid it's no longer good enough. I want
Yeah.
to see more millionaires. 1,000 millionaires to me is more
Yeah.
important than 10 billionaire, tech billionaire. And maybe we could
Well,
be
you know,
millionaires.
well, we could, but I think, but the thing is that the world actually, in terms of resources, there are enough resources for everybody,
Yeah,
but not everybody has access to that.
yeah,
So I agree with you, is that supporting the small business to just balance that resources, but also understand the requirements of procurement teams
yeah,
in businesses or the corporate, and the challenges that they face. That is to find that how do we make it easy for both groups.
yeah,
And yes, cost is an important, but we'd be surprised how much cheaper it can be with a small business, and how much more agile, which could be beneficial.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, it's looking at different way, and like you said, being disruptive, to show that when it comes to procurement, that supply diversity can be beneficial and not necessarily be more work.
Are you finding, because often you think you may go to like the prestigious consulting companies or companies with a track record in X, but then you think about small businesses. Well, like yourself, you've made the jump from the corporate world and now you are
Yes.
an industry disruptor. So you're actually buying the expertise
Yeah.
at maybe a lower price. Why are you paying a premium when you can get the best and then you are making a social impact? So how have you
Absolutely.
how have you found going from working in the corporate and business world to being the entrepreneur? What's made you smile?
Oh, well, it was tough at first. I can tell you that, and I still remember that. The days of, like, I have my savings when you make that jump,
Yeah,
but not having a regular paycheck, or as the Americans call it, paycheck. Not having that was scary.
yeah,
Um, Not being able to pick up the phone and calling the IT department when you have problems with your computer. And also the loneliness, you don't have the conversation or team lunch or let's
yeah,
all go somewhere after work. Just you being everything. When you incorporate, you just be your job and your that scope.
yeah,
And all of a sudden you have to worry about sales, marketing, getting leads, doing the job,
yeah,
finances, operations, and then if anything, is broken, you just have to try and fix it all. It just feels very single parent all of a sudden, I
yeah.
guess,
Do you,
of your business.
do you think procurement teams should really look at how they can make it easier to engage with small businesses? Because you think you have standard terms and conditions, you have, like, for example, insurance. You might, now we're talking about cyber insurance, which is very
Yeah.
expensive, crime
Mm.
and fidelity insurance, professional indemnity, all of those
Yeah.
things. And you think, look, am I going to ask a small business for $20 million in cyber insurance
Mm.
versus $500,000? That policy is cheap because they have to make it not prohibitive for small businesses to actually engage with the large organisations.
And that's part of the problem is, the corporate side has to mitigate their, obviously, the risk
Yeah,
of engaging the suppliers and engaging with the large brand suppliers. Yes, it's more expensive, but is that almost like an insurance policy that comes with it?
yeah,
um, there is positive. There's been research to show how much more positive for government and organization to engage the micro businesses.
Yeah.
But there's also acknowledgement that the bureaucracy, if I could use that word,
Mhm.
to engage is too much for any business, the small businesses.
Yeah.
And so, how do you find that balance? And that is something that Ellect is actually wanting to work towards with a technology platform, is to help address those problems. But before we get that, that's why the trade at the moment on Elect is designed for less than $5,000, so it could not have all those requirements that procurement would need or the corporate would need, just to get that happening, get that engagement. And as we grow, we want to address those processes to make it easy and not cost prohibitive. And it could be maybe we provide that insurance,
Yeah.
like what you're saying. That could be one way to
Yeah.
protect them. And so this is where I feel the direction is going. And we have our roadmap in terms of what we want to do with the technology. But you're absolutely right. That is the challenge. How do we bring these two groups of people together? And what Elect is doing is addressing that.
Yeah. I mean, one thing I'm going to talk about New South Wales government, and I think they've done a great job with really enabling digitisation for
Yeah.
ages as consumers, but also looking at the frameworks. They've actually set out terms and conditions which are standard, and you
Mm.
engage, and they're making it a lot easier than it was probably 5, 10 years ago. But if you look,
Yes.
my advice to a small business would be look at a government or council terms and conditions,
Mm.
because generally terms and conditions change, but generally they are the same. If you're supplying to a telco, to an airline, to an insurance company, there are things they need for that industry, but generally like liability, indemnity,
Yeah.
warranties. Get to know the basics of contract construct,
Yeah. Yeah.
and you're comfortable with that, then you can just move forward with confidence. Let me just read
That's
out.
a very, yeah. While you're reading out, it's a very good advice, Martin. I think that's absolutely important.
Yeah.
So, what interesting comments do we have there?
We've got from Rashmi, thank you, Martin and Sandra, for bringing such burning issues on the table. Thanks, Rashmi, because I love that comment about burning issues on the table, because in a negotiation, it is those burning issues that we get on the table.
It is, and that's the thing is let's not just make it a talk fest. I'm all about action. Let's try and address it and move forward on this
Yeah.
burning issue.
Do you have any tips for people negotiating with larger organisations when you are a small business?
Do you know what? Instead of just coming from me, I've put together also podcasts of interviewing different people. Sorry, just dropped my headphone. I got very excited. Um, so to give the tips of how to engage, where it's from the psychology of it all to actual negotiation. But from me, for you, Martin,
Yeah.
to the audience,
Yeah.
I would say that being authentic is important.
Yeah.
Understand their position as well, that they're not as agile. They have to follow a particular process or technology, and be as agile for them. But also be confident that your pricing, your services are all are suitable for their needs, and don't try to undercut too much from
Yeah,
it.
it's interesting because there's a lot of advice about selling on LinkedIn. There's a lot of,
Mm.
and a lot of it I disagree with vehemently. I think the advice is about maybe selling to people, not
Yeah,
businesses. And it's
correct.
I've in my career I've received, how can I sell to your organisation? And they just send me the whole range of things. I'm like, well, already buy all of that. What would you like me to do? Do you have a particular problem? Have you spoken with this person? Have you done that? No. Who do I need to speak to so I can go? And it comes back to pain points, addressing a
Yeah,
problem, becoming an
yeah,
expert in that issue. But also, my number one piece of advice is around the relationships. But with selling, is understand how people buy and the approval process, because you have to get your deal signed off. Also, it is hard to get things approved and contracts signed because at the end of the day, do you go and just spend $50 because you want to, or do you want to buy it and you actually make a decision you're going to spend $50?
Yeah, yeah,
Companies, this is their money to spend, and it's
yeah,
investment decisions. And I'm sorry, we don't just go
yes,
and, unless you're the
no.
Kardashians where you've got billions or you can run for president, like Kanye is, we don't have that as well. It's like your money as well. So be aware of the approval process.
It is true. It is true, and that's the thing is that's why it's important to be authentic and just to make sure that you, being a supplier, is that you can do the job, you meet their pain point, and you can deliver it, but also have an appreciation. You know that,
Yeah,
like you said, the requirements of the organization, the process it takes, and how long it takes, and how
yeah.
many stakeholders are involved too.
It's like it's. Do you find a lot of people talk about the pitch and then
Mm,
actually then forget the next step? Are you?
yes,
Yeah,
I do. They think that once you get in the door, that's it, and then I'm surprised that it takes 12 to 18 months for the whole deal to be
yeah.
accepted from the
It's
first interview, from the first meeting. Yeah, it's like the pitch is a good start, but once every step on the way, and then you also have staff changes that can
yeah,
happen. Yeah, so it is a long, involved process, and I completely understand why. And so I do believe technology will help improve that process.
yeah,
But in the meantime, I think just let's see if we could do the very simple miscellaneous spend.
yeah,
Get the small business used to on a
yeah,
low risk level in working with corporate. Get corporate to work with without too many I guess hoops to jump,
yeah,
try out the different suppliers, and then like you said, then the people element will start to work because then they have to work, they get to know each other, and then progress from that. I would like
yeah.
to see Ellect almost like a dating agency or dating platform, and getting them to get to know each other, and then let's see where that relationship nurtures
Yeah.
into.
Let's see what we've got. So we've got Stephen D'Souza, one of my great friends, says great fan of Sandra. Well done, Martin.
Ah.
Rashmi is saying no one likes to talk about it, so thank you. Being an immigrant woman of colour, I relate to gender and inclusion. You know what? I often feel that as a white male, I'm an openly gay male, I haven't faced certain prejudices
Mm.
that others have had in the LGBTQI community, but I've also experienced prejudice as a gay man, and I've seen the looks in the lift when I've had blue hair. But when I said, "Oh, I'm marching in the Mardi Gras this weekend," immediately smile acceptance, and they actually then want to be associated with me because it's popular because I'm marching in Mardi Gras. But there was that initial judgment of the colour of my hair.
Yeah.
Had I had normal coloured hair, wearing everything else, I think it would have been a smile, how are you? And I think what you're doing is disrupting prejudice.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Martin, for saying that. That would be awesome. Everybody can see it. That's what we're trying to do. And I would like to see the world to be of great acceptance. I think it's sometimes it's sad to hear so much of the prejudice that's still going on
Yeah.
in 2020. And I know that there's a lot more acceptance in many things, but I still think we have a long way to go. But I'm just done talking about it. Like what you're doing. Let's just work towards it. Let's get it happening.
Yeah. And I'm going to make a statement. Acceptance is actually safety for other people. I've been speaking with, I have many conversations with people who LGBTQ in many parts of the world where they don't feel safe, including
Mm,
in countries where they should be, including America, including Australia.
yeah,
And
yeah,
acceptance is allowing people to live. And I
yeah.
think
That's so true.
that's so true. So, what are your plans for Elect? If you look forward to, say, like 3 years' time, people talk about a 5 year plan, and what do you want it to be? What's your vision for it?
Well, my vision for Elect is be the go-to place for supply diversity
Yeah,
and be the trading platform that's integrated to all the ERP systems, fintech, blockchain, and show that how business can be done easily
yeah,
and safely as well.
yeah,
That's a big goal.
yeah,
I know in 3 years' time, and there's a lot that needs to happen between now and then. But without a goal, then there's no purpose. So I think this is our purpose, and we need, and also it's a business. I just want to make it clear that
mm,
elect. We need to do business. We need to show that there's good in business, and that we can change the world in business
yeah.
as well.
I agree. I think about Pride or Sydney, we have Mardi Gras, and now we have corporations marching. There's a lot of furore about rainbow washing and just going after the pink dollar, and that's a different debate. But what
Mm,
its business has actually made is it's been safe to be openly gay at work. It's
yes.
safe that it's actually made homophobia and transphobia uncomfortable, which is what it should be because I did not create homophobia. Your prejudice affects my
Yeah.
life. It's like
Yeah.
I did not create racism, so business has a big impact. What's been the most fun thing you've learnt in this journey? Because you smile so warmly about that and you laugh, and I just think there's just been you must have had some great experiences in your journey so far.
Oh, well, I mean, I smile because I think you got to look at life and see the positive thing. And also, do you know, Martin, I smile because I think it's great with what you're doing.
Yeah,
I think it's great that you're highlighting acceptance is important, and it's all part of making it safe for the different communities, safe for women as well.
yeah,
Um, and I've had many challenges. I've experienced, even like you said, I was lucky enough career wise to be in senior roles
mm,
in my early 20s, sitting in a room full, being part of the management team, which is all white men in their
yeah,
50s in grey suit.
yeah,
And I never realized I was the odd one out because I looked out that way.
yeah,
But obviously, when they look
yeah,
back, they can see me being different. But and I've had a lot of assumptions made about me,
mm,
the lack of abilities, or I have to work very, very hard to prove more so, 10 times more so, just to be in that position. So um, harassment was a big thing also,
yeah,
and but I think that all made me a stronger person, and it's what I want to do is that I think I'm a survivor, and yes, I think I'm lucky that I survive.
yeah,
What I want to do, I know that a lot of people don't know, haven't, and I think I like to advocate for them
yeah,
and advocate for everybody to say, look, yes, I think I'm a survivor and I've found a way to survive.
yeah,
But I know not everybody's so lucky, and and there's a lot of people who are lost,
yeah,
who don't know what to do, and I guess not only do I want to advocate them, but to show them the light, to show them the
yeah,
path.
yeah. I was going to have a look. Sandra, I loved your approach. Let's get it done. Rashmi, thank you. I loved your analogy of prejudice. It's interesting because I struggle with dismissal of a problem. I have struggled with if somebody says white privilege, you might not like it, but immediately you shut down debate. I have a
Mm,
problem when I say homophobic. Well, I'm not homophobic, or an example, the Coopers of Central Park, Amy and Christian Cooper.
yeah,
If it wasn't for technology, Christian could have lost his life.
yeah,
He's an out gay man, out gay African American who has disrupted the comic book industry because he wrote the first LGBTQ character for Marvel Comics, I believe. He's doing the right thing, Amy Cooper is doing the wrong thing, and he's saying, "Wait a minute, you can't walk your dog without being on a leash." And she
Yeah.
calls the phone and says, "I'm a white woman being harassed by an African American man." Were it not for
That's
him
all she had to
saying that,
say. Yeah.
imagine if she said he has a gun or his phone was a gun, would
Yeah.
he have been another person? And for me, that is the. I have no problem saying your homophobia cost people's lives. Your
Yeah.
racism cost people's lives. Not your as a general, but as a general as a society. And 99% of people who aren't, you can make the difference for the 1% who are. Let's go after that
Yeah.
1% who make our lives hell.
Yeah, yeah, I agree with you on that. I think the awareness is what we really need to push for. Like because of the technology, that behavior is shown to say, and I'm hoping it makes people think. It's like, could that have been me on either side? Could have that me just walking along the park, pointing out to a woman who wasn't doing the right thing, and that's the reaction I get.
Yeah,
And for the woman, could I have been that woman to make that assumption and nearly cost someone else's life? Having those
yeah,
attitudes.
yeah. And it's interesting because I'm actually probably going to be a bit controversial here, but that's why it's called the Courage Panel. Because for
Yeah.
me, in my career, I didn't come out until I was 27 in 2002. But my first job, like the homophobia, I remember that talk about the smoking room. That the smoking room was the hub of gossip, and I
Mm.
people were talking. I was one of the managers. We were talking about my sexuality. They were talking about when I was going to come out. Then the women on the floor, because it was a call centre, gender equality.
Yeah.
Look, I was the only male
Yeah.
manager, and most of the staff were female.
Mm.
Some of the comments were so toxic about gay people, or the other comments were, "Oh, I love the gays. I love the way they do this," and then
Yeah.
they would make comments about their sexual practices and oh, who's the top, who's the bottom, and that was 20 plus years ago. That behaviour was so toxic that it was uncomfortable for me to come out.
Yeah.
And how was it was actually hard for me to lead a team where I knew
Mm.
my sexuality was the point of conversation, but also if I came out, would then my leadership be based on you judging my sexuality? And that was 20 plus years ago, and that still goes on today. And that's women can make the change to
Yeah.
help easier for gay men and
Yeah.
other people. So, yeah,
No, that's the thing is that's why I'm surprised that 20 plus years in 2020 we are still experiencing these sort of prejudice and these sort of toxic. You know what I mean? Sunday morning,
yeah,
um, and this toxic behavior, and this is what's disappointing. I still see it, and the Black Lives Matter, the kind of conversation that comes out when it comes to talking about gender equality. If I talk about Ellect or anything about gender equality, the comments that comes out, I'm still surprised, and also to people who I actually value as friends, and in both in personal and professional. And I think, I think about this, and I go, why do they feel it's absolutely okay
mm,
to say these things and not understand the
yeah,
impact? And whether some of it could be, I believe, the media
yeah,
encouraging that sort of discussion and saying it's okay, or politicians who
yeah,
make some really judgmental opinions about the situation, and I think that the people movement is really where we need to push to say this is no longer okay.
yeah,
I mean, if we look at Me Too
yeah,
movement, that is the first time this collaborative awareness saying it's everywhere, and it's actually scared a lot of men.
mm,
And I've had everybody knew that with my work that they sell Sanders off to her secret women business because they know that I'm a feminist and I
yeah,
do I belong to a women organization and advocate for women issues. But in the last 2 or 3 years, or since the Me Too movement, um, I'm actually getting people having conversation with me and saying, I don't understand what's the big deal about it. Essentially, they didn't use
yeah,
those words. But then for me, instead of going like, "Oh my God, how could you?" Blah, 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 I just sat down with them and explain, and the conversation has been good. I think we still have a long way to go, but it's this first step of awareness, and I think
Yeah,
we need to do that with all the different groups to say, you know what, let's call out. It's not okay for you to talk about my sexuality.
yeah,
It's not okay for you to talk about my sexual practices. Would you like me to do the same to
yeah.
you and ask you? Yeah.
It's interesting because I work out in Mardi Gras, Scottish LGBTQI group that I march with, and I remember I went to an event last year, and there were women. I think they were on a hen night, and were coming up and
Mm,
they were gesturing, and I was angry,
mm,
and I said, "You need to leave me alone. I don't like that threatening behaviour."
yeah.
And it was actually some lesbian friends actually went up to have that conversation, and I felt threatened, and I'm like, wait a minute, what if the situation were reversed, and like
Yeah.
1 in 6 men are victims of this vicious crime, 1 in 4 women,
Yeah.
and Me
Yeah.
Too is all encompassing, but I struggle with people who just think it's okay, and feminism. A lot of men think that men's issues don't matter, but we talk about men's issues. We talk about depression. Like 75% of suicides are men. It's the
Mm,
biggest cause of death in young men. And when we come down to LGBTQI community, the rates are off the
it is.
chart.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
business talking about
Yeah.
mental health, equality, diversity, and inclusion is making that social impact on lives.
Yeah. And that's the whole thing about inclusion.
Yeah,
Um, with, you know, with mental health, the appreciation of mental health issues, because it was such a taboo subject,
yeah,
and how it just affects us in many ways. And also the conditioning to for men not be able to show emotion,
yeah,
not to say they have these challenges, and to internalize it all. I think it's something. Part of that is yes, we have our action to be included, but also to encourage conversation and discussion, to call out behaviors
yeah.
that's not appropriate and not be judged for that. That is the world that I would like to see
Yeah,
more
and
and
as a
more of.
guy, I want to thank you also as a feminist, talking about the Me Too movement, is because sometimes men feel scared of feminism
Mm,
and that
yeah,
our voice, and always think that men are the perpetrator, which is fundamentally wrong. But we
I
need
know.
to talk about it, because then we need to make it comfortable for men to be able to feel they can express who they are unapologetically,
Yeah,
struggle with that, and that they're not going to be fit. I'm going to have to rush me. Your comments are beautiful. Freedom of speech without knowing the impact is a toxic freedom. Gift, thank you for your comments. This is conversations that should take
yeah,
place in business, in governance,
yeah,
in governance meetings, but
yeah.
doesn't happen yet. So, you know,
No, I know, and these are important discussion, so that we have this whole again, the whole awareness and understand that we're unconscious bias and unconsciously doing things and not
yeah,
realizing the impact. Just on your point, do you know about talking? I have to say that I wasn't always that great before. What
yeah,
changed me was Donald Trump being elected.
yeah,
Up until then, I was very much like Hillary, like calling people who likes Donald Trump to be deplorable people
yeah,
and all that, and just yell at them, or just feel really
yeah,
angry. And then when he got in, the discussion was that this is why, because there's a lot of people who have those concerns, whether they're right or wrong, but they have those views, they have those concerns, they're afraid, but they couldn't express it.
yeah,
They couldn't talk about it because of worried about people pointing at them and accusing of them of being racist or this or
mm,
that. And so um, I think that's where I think we as people, and I'm just collectively,
yeah,
we failed.
yeah,
We failed not to have that conversation
yeah,
in a safe, open environment and accept that everybody has really different views and do like things that we really strongly feel against. But until we have that conversation and also accept that they have their reasons why they believe in their view, whether it's unconscious or whether it's conditioning or something like that. But until we have that conversation, until we bring that into
Yeah,
awareness, um, it's very hard to make any change.
it is, and I think you have to really keep these things so simple. You know, it
Mm,
doesn't have to be complex, diversity and inclusion stuff like that. It's honestly, it's so simple when you think about, you know what, at the moment there's a resurgence of the high streets, of the resurgence for in the local cafe. Because people are
yes.
doing that because we're all in this thing together, and I lament the closing of so many businesses where I've supported in the past,
Yeah.
and I want to see small business, but small business is community. Small business, then you think as a small business, is a consumer of larger businesses. It has that cascading effect. But if we don't have this conversation, which are difficult, which is challenging, which is uncomfortable, but we are smiling, we're engaging. We've got Rashmi, you are speaking my mind, and I struggle as a white male to think, you know what, I don't feel that I should have any additional privilege from anybody else. But I cannot change the colour of my skin. I cannot
Mm,
change anything else. What I can change is make it easier for other people, particularly the LGBTQI community, because that's
yeah.
where I'm a member of. And what would your advice be to people who feel, you know what, they don't have a voice, they are discriminated against, they are the victim of prejudice? What's your advice for them to have the courage to make a difference?
I would actually say seek out mentors. If you seek out mentors that you feel that you feel that where you want to be at, and
Yeah,
be able to um, being like to address those problems or how to do it. And
yeah,
I think I mean I say that because I think that like you said, it's people with people, and if we all support each other, if whether it's young or old, it doesn't have to be about a young person seeking out an older person. It could also be, the other way around.
yeah,
Um, and it's about how do we communicate? How do we help people to accept? How do we not feel not feel scared?
yeah, yeah. Last night I caught up for dinner with some great friends, and the Uber driver was a lady born in India, and she
Oh
arrived in
wow!
Australia. We were talking about how long we've been in Australia. And we both realised we'd arrived in Australia in the year 2000, just before the Olympics. And we
Oh
shared the
okay.
special moment of the Olympics. And we also shared that we really enjoy living here. And this lady said, you know, I'm free, I've got a great life. And then she was calling her niece to kind of start making dinner, and she was telling me about how her children loved the roti bread that she made, and how it was like going to a restaurant, but she didn't make naan bread. She bought it from a supermarket because it was cheaper. It was just easier. And then I had a conversation. Oh, I really love Indian food from the UK and how it's all changed. But we were at a 10-minute conversation, two people
Yeah,
from different countries who've chosen to come to Australia and make it our home. And we were
yeah,
both laughing and smiling. And I think that's what it should be, laughing and smiling.
I
Um,
agree.
I agree. So, to wrap things up, do you have any final words, final messages, anything you'd like to share?
Well, I would like to do a call out. Let's call Martin, you and I. Let's call
Yeah,
out and say, look, if anybody who wants to address diversity and inclusion, or um, feel that they're not, they don't know what to do, contact us.
yeah, contact us.
Yeah,
We've both
I'm
started
not
this journey because we've had the
exactly.
courage to do it.
Yep. And so, like, again, I'm no longer into, I don't want to just do a talk fest. I reckon, let's get stuff done
Yeah,
and contact us. Let's make this happen. And
yeah,
if anybody who believe, supporting Ellect, wanting to from a supplier, corporate, buyer. Sorry, I'll do supplier, buyer, partner. If you feel that you would like to be part of the Ellect platform, also contact me or Martin. I'm thinking, I'm going to keep talking to Martin.
Yeah.
But yes, but let's contact us and tell us how us, being on the Courage panel,
Yeah.
how we can help you.
Yeah. Cool. Well, I'm going to give the fun word to Rashmi. Is I was tagged as feminist since my college days, but it's not just about females, it's about inclusion. I think that's the
Love it.
wonderful statement. Well, just stay where you are, Sandra, but everybody else, thank you very much, and I will see you next Sunday morning. Cheers.
Thanks. And thanks for having me.
You're welcome.